Hello, welcome to part two of my Overgrown Village series that I had started a couple of weeks ago. So, my whole thing for this is that I'm going to do like 5 to 6 very tiny builds on one giant lot, just like so that I can enjoy landscaping, but without having to like build a giant mansion because I started this when I was feeling burnt out, and this has helped me to kind of like navigate that little bit where I don't have to like force myself to do like really detailed interiors of like large builds, which then ended up turning into me giving myself a break from interiors entirely. So like off of my videos, I've just been doing large shells, like ones that have like at least a few bedrooms, because anytime I actually build and I'm furnishing, it's lucky if I have two bedrooms. They're usually always one bedroom. And so this one, I didn't even introduce this build, but this is my potion carriage. It is livable. I had put a bed in, a bathroom, a kitchen. I decide that later on while I'm already kind of like trying to figure out the layout of the interior, because then I realized that I wanted it to be able to be livable in case people download this and that's what they want to use it for. Um, so none of these are on the gallery yet, but they will be. I'm planning on uploading them all as one big lot, but also as their own separate lots. So I'll have to um place it on a smaller lot and like delete some of the buildings and like fix the landscaping and everything just so that like people could enjoy each one for however they would like to. And so I wanted this to at least have a livable space in it, even though in my head this was going to be like a community or a commercial lot, but I decided to change it up. But yeah, it's a carriage, so I like how I ended up doing the wheels for this. I'm always like struggling when I want to do a build like this, and I always like give up because I'm never impressed with it. I always feel like it's a little dull and not like it doesn't look as good as like other ones that I've seen people do, but I feel like layering these wheels together really helped me to really like appreciate this build and feel like it's actually good. Like, I think I layered it with, a big water wheel, and then inside of it, a rusty wheel, and then I put, like, some sort of wall detail to kinda, like, finish it off. And I do have a reference picture for this, so I'm going to pull that up so that, like, you kind of see what I was looking at while I was building this. Okay, so here is the reference picture that I have. Um, I know it looks completely different from what is actually on the screen. That's normally what I find happening with a lot of my reference pictures. I kind of like something to start with and kind of act as a guide when I'm just trying to figure out the shape of it in general. Because sometimes when I do the shape, I start like getting in my head and then I like don't like it, and that's usually what happens to me when I'm streaming. Most of my stream builds, I end up not even finishing. But yeah, so the reference picture kind of looks like a log, and I liked the shape of it. I liked the window hanging off the side with the flower box and then the deck in the front, and that's kind of like where my inspiration was. So I have the deck and I have the little piece sticking out, but I used walls instead of a roof. If you noticed at the start of the video, I was like playing around to see if it would look good with like using a roof piece for that, but I realized that some things just don't like translate well from like reference pictures to in the Sims, and this was going to be kind of like the best option for how I like it. And I do like how it turned out. I think that this shape works great for it. I didn't want it to just be a rectangle, which is normally what I think I struggle with when I'm trying to do a build like this. It always just ends up looking like a rectangle. So I have the piece sticking out from like one side of it just to add some definition, and then I used a rounded, is it a rounded wall piece, a rounded roof piece to kind of just like help to give it like a more unique shape from just like a box. And I also just like put a bunch of columns on it and a like variety of different sorts of like wall ivy, because the theme of this entire lot is going to be overgrown, which is how I prefer my builds. I think that I really like building like that, and that's just what I enjoy most. And so like you see that like the wheels and stuff, there's nowhere that this carriage is gonna go because it's everything's grown around it. There's um trees in the way, there's stumps in the way. Like whoever brought this here, it's stuck here forever. And the porch part is what I think isn't going to be functional. I have like high hopes that the interior is functional. I feel like there shouldn't be too many problems except for maybe the bed. It is mostly this part that I'm worried about that I might have to change, because it is roped off and I liked that look, but I don't think Sims can walk through that. Some debug items your Sims can walk through, but others you can't. And I have a good feeling that this one they can't walk through. So when I play test it, things might change just slightly. Oh, and I never use these like balcony type things. And I decided to use one because I liked the gold color. Is that from like Get Famous maybe? I couldn't even tell you because I don't use them. And I decided to fill it with flowers, and I really liked the look of it, and I liked it so much that you see I'm trying to like overuse it and see if I could place it anywhere else. And then I was had to calm myself down and tell myself that one is just fine and I don't have to go overboard with it. But it did help me to like also find a little like overhang for the window area. And I feel like I could have added a stool outside or something that makes it look like you could kind of like step up and make the exchange for like the potions and stuff, but it's just in the imagination, I guess. And outside, I was originally placing these different rugs on the ground to kind of have like a merchant's area where like there's just like little thrifted things around for sale. But I didn't end up doing it for some reason. I think that like I got distracted with the picnic basket and then I just kind of settled on a picnic area, which is still cute. So like this build, I think I ended up doing in a few like like sitting sessions, is that what you call it? Like I would stop and then I'd walk away and then I'd pick it back up another time. And so that probably also just got lost in that time because as you can see here, I'm now like doing the interior, but I end up stopping and I just go back to the exterior because one day I was like, okay, this exterior is done, so it's time to do the interior. And then I realized when I come back that the exterior could use more landscaping, and it's because I decided that I wasn't going to have another build in front of this, where that's was kind of my plan, was to put a greenhouse in front of this, and I realized that I didn't want anything covering it up and blocking each other. And I think that's part of the challenge of having a like 64 by 64 lot where you're kind of like planning out where all the little builds are going to be. I don't want things blocking each other because I'd like to be able to like take a picture and see everything. If it's like slightly covered up by one build, that's fine. But I think that if I had placed the greenhouse in front of it, it would have ended up blocking it a little bit too much. And I really love this potion carriage, so I didn't want it to be blocked up at all. So I feel like in the picture, this would kind of be like the main focal point, and then everything else around it is kind of like the set pieces for it. And so I like that like idea. And I think that like at least I'm gonna go with like different colored flower themes for each build, but then like kind of tie them together through the pathways. And so this one has a bunch of yellow flowers, but then the one behind it has a bunch of pink flowers. and there are some like pink and yellow flowers scattered along the path a little bit, and I think that maybe when I work on the slot again, I might make it more obvious that that's happening. Um, I did do a greenhouse build though. It's not a full greenhouse. It's a library with a um like a greenhouse tower on the side, and that's going to be next week's video. And I don't remember what color flowers I did for that. Maybe I didn't. um yeah, I don't actually remember. It could have just been white flowers. I can't really tell, but I could always go back in and like change things around, which is what I really like about doing this series, is because like if I change my mind, it's not just like committed to that and then that's like it's all over. um and then I'll actually have like weeks to work on this and like change some things around, and then by the time like the finished product is done, maybe some things have changed a little bit in the landscaping, and I think that's kind of like would be fun to kind of explore and showcase, I guess. But yeah, this is when I'm just like putting rocks down in front because I've realized that I didn't want another build. And I think it was the right choice. I think I'm only really just put like two little planters with some pumpkins, and that's kind of just what I decide on. I think it works because again, I didn't want to block anything. And I'm almost certain that this is like it for the exterior. I don't think I really did much else because I realized that I could just push off looking at like working on the hills next to it and having it blend in better in another video. So this time I was like, I'll leave that for future Megan to take care of. And yeah, I like the porch. It's gonna be sad if I'll have to change the rope and stuff, but I understand. And inside, I really wanted to make these benches work because I never really used these before. And then I realized that I really liked them, but these do end up changing because halfway through I decide that I want it to be livable, and so I needed room for a kitchen. But most of this clutter, it stays similar. I just have to like move it a few times, which is a little tedious because like you could see I am putting a bunch of little things around, and I fill up those baskets, and as I'm filling them up, I need to like move them around and like change the size of the basket with tool. So I end up having to move everything. But I really like these baskets with the different potion bottles in it. And I've been using other objects to act as potions because I do a lot of magical builds, and it could get tiring to just use the same sorts of things over and over again. And especially when like you're playing the game, there's a lot of like effects on these potion bottles, and it could be like a little too busy, and I if I was making a reel or something, I didn't want like a bunch of like puffing effects everywhere. So I have like different miscellaneous bottles and stuff that I end up using, and I've noticed that like the bathroom stuff is just like really good to act as potion bottles. So I have some um bottles from one of the clutter kits, and also I realized sizing up nail polish makes it look like it could be potion bottles, and so like I mentally took a note for my next limited pack build that I'm going to use the nail polish bottles and um perfume bottles to act as potions, so I can make a more witchy base game only build or base game in one pack only build. And so like if you haven't seen some of my other videos, I also have another little challenge for myself of doing a speed build for like base game plus one pack for each of the packs. And so that's also another thing that I'm like continuing to keep in my mind while I'm building and stuff. But this little areas where I imagine they kind of like exchange the potions out of the window as long as like you can reach, I guess. I wouldn't be able to reach, but um yeah, it's a very small build, which the only thing I'm worried about on the inside not working is the bed, but I feel like I didn't put much in the bedroom except for a cauldron and a bed. And this is when I think the new update had come out recently when I was doing this that allowed you to place stuff on toilets and sinks. And so I made sure to use that in this build. There's also something else that I kind of like talked over myself that I wanted to mention while I was doing it in this build, and I don't remember what it was now. But maybe if it's important, it'll come back to me. But yeah, so the kitchen, this is when I'm realizing that I'm gonna have to change some things up. And I'm happy for changing it up because I think that it looks a little messy, that corner. And I also just don't like the color of those benches compared to all the other furniture I had picked out. And like I love this werewolf table with the book that's like propped underneath it. And so I think it really just like helps it look a little bit better and like blend into everything else, which is like I feel like this was the main focus for me, was this little corner. So I'm glad that it ended up turning out to look a little bit more like not neat because it's a mess, but um like more just that it looks more lived in rather than like things thrown on a floor, I guess I would say. Oh, and I also realized that they have like the herbalism jars that also look like potion bottles. So there's a lot of things that can be used as them, and you don't even really need Realm of Magic to make a witchy cottage and stuff. I wonder if there's like something that could be used as a cauldron that's not like the main cauldrons. And I know that there's a cauldron in the spooky stuff pack, but yeah, I feel like I need to explore some of the items and see what could maybe become a cauldron. It's really not important, but I want to be able to actually do like a witchy build like that. So if you can hear a motorcycle, I apologize. I did get a new mic to help eliminate like all of the background noise in my room, especially while it's gonna get warmer out because I'm gonna have to have a fan on. It's hot, so um, I want it to be able to stream and stuff without having to just be sweating in a super super hot room. So yeah, I don't know if you that picked up or not. It was pretty loud, so I feel like it probably did. Um, but yeah, I don't know what else is in this build. I feel like it's about to end. Okay, it is about to end. So all I do is just like I start placing some stuff around to like map out what other sorts of builds I could have around, and that's about it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Next week's video is going to be part 3 of this. So yeah, thank you. Bye.